Marshall Island, you're where we came from, the one who made us into the people that we are.
Welcome to Ozarks RiMajel, a special KUAF Public Radio Listening Lab multimedia series about Marshall Islanders who have navigated new lives in Northwest Arkansas over the past 30 years. I'm your host, April Brown, COO of the nonprofit Marshallese Educational Initiative headquartered in Springdale. Our guest today is Josepha Maddison, Chairperson of the Republic of the Marshall Islands Customary Law and Language Commission. Josepha resides in the capital city of Majuro and has agreed to meet virtually to talk about the indigenous cultural traditions of Marshall Islanders pre-settlement. Yahweh and hello, Commissioner Maddison.
Yahweh.
Thank you for joining us. Your beautiful archipelago, comprised of two remote chains of islands and atolls located in the Western Pacific, north of the equator, was first settled by ancient Southeastern Asian mariners between 2,000 and 3,000 years ago. How were these ancient mariners able to navigate the vast Pacific Ocean?
Yes, it's very interesting because we had navigation skills that were passed on from generation to generation. So they were able to study the landmarks and the sea marks to know where and how to go about their journeys between islands.
Right. So what did the people, these new settlers, call their homeland?
Well, before then, there was only island game, which I explained that it comes from three-syllable island game. I is current, lung, sky, and then the vegetation. And we didn't call ourselves anything else because we were just in the Marshall Island. Well, where we are now. We didn't travel outside. So, but it was only when the foreigners came, foreign discoverers came, and they named the islands after themselves. There was the William Marshall and the other one was Gilbert's. So we call them us Marshallese after Marshall.
Right.
These are the Marshall Islands.
So what food crops and livestock, if any, were introduced by these new settlers? What subsistence crops, plants, and seafood was consumed?
Okay, our main source of protein and such, because everything that's in the ocean is edible to us. And we only had our indigenous plants we have are the pandanus, breadfruit, and of course the arrowroot plant. Anything else were introduced to our islands from the visitors.
Right.
As for we only had, I think we didn't have any chicken, but we had bird. That's why we have only one name for bird and chicken.
It's the same.
Yes.
The same word is used for both.
Mm. Yeah, we didn't have any domestic animals. Yeah, besides the pests and the nuisance, but anything else was introduced to the islands by the foreigners.
Right. Right. Could you describe the housing constructed by these early settlers and any architectural means to survive the elements, the sun exposure, trade winds, typhoons, and such?
Well, you've seen our houses when you were here, the ones made from thatch. I mean the pandanus leaves. Well, when the missionaries, because they were like mostly the first foreigners that really settled in the islands, they have to import building materials from the States so they can, which they did, they built especially on Avon where they first landed. All the houses there, they're still standing. They were made from the plywood, which were brought from since we don't have here.
Right. So the original homes were pandanus and just the
Yeah,
crop.
pandanus. That's what they use. Nothing else. They depend on that.
So do you know what the indigenous islanders wore before the missionaries came?
I think we've seen so many pictures of them. They were like cloth that were woven from also pandanus leaf, and they were really fine. And they were all only the bottom that were covered, both male and female. Well, it was different that the women they had two, that one that you put around the to the front and the other one to the back to cover more to something. But other than that, they all were those made from pandanus. The loin cloth for the men, they were also woven from the pandanus leaf.
What about tattoos?
What's that?
What about tattoos? Men and women both.
Okay, tattoos. I think we talk about. I don't know. We talk about the Wake Island that the Marshallese, because we have our own name for Wake Island, because we claim that it is our island.
Right.
Because that's where they grow one of the plants that they use for, make oil and put on the body of the man when they go there to train for like arm wrestling, and they have tattoos to make their body, stronger. Like when it rains, you can only see droplets on their body, because that was the purpose of the tattoo, but mostly was for body adornment, if anything else.
Right. So your people's indigenous culture was rooted in a complex system of clans and lineages tied to matrilineal land ownership. Could you speak a little to that system?
Okay, so like everything you inherit from your mother, the right to the land, the right to the title of the land, all from your mother. And that's where it says that, you mentioned that we have a matrilineal system here. And there's a saying that the women, they own the islands. Because you cannot, when you inherit from your father, then it's different. It can always change, and you're not secure like something that you inherit from your mother, especially right to the land.
Right. And so does this system of land tenure and management and access to the land still persist?
It
Matrilineal
is,
still persist?
it is, it is very strongly. We still use the system.
Okay. So what were some of the indigenous spiritual beliefs and ceremonies that were practiced by your ancestors again before the missionaries came? Do you know of any?
Okay, we really didn't. I don't think we did have any ceremonies, because the Marshallese were very conservative with what their own clan knowledge of either medicine or anything else that has to do with spiritual beliefs. We don't share, because if you don't share, then you lose the power. They get very weak. So we don't do ceremonies. We do it ourselves. What we have to do to like put magic on someone or take the magic away or cure someone with the knowledge of what the medicine, local medicine that is needed. And we don't share, we only do it within our own clan. So there was no like mass or any ceremonies that was done. And
Right.
there was no any even spiritual like the deities. We don't have that. Everything it's always on the dead spirit, or what do you call it? But nothing else that we worship. We don't worship that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do any worshiping of any deities, but we have our own clan beliefs, knowledge, and we only pass it around within our clan.
Right. Right. And people were chosen to have that knowledge, and that knowledge was just chosen, just a few were chosen, and then that was passed down orally,
Yeah,
correct?
it always passed down. The women's roles were passed down between mother to daughter, especially with the regainin, the pounder, and what to do with it only passed between the women.
Mm.
But then there was this special. The only thing I can think of that is, I think we don't. No, we don't do that anymore. It's like when erode or a chief dies, there will be always be someone either is drowned before the king is buried, so he can accompany the chief on his journey to the other world. That was a practice back then.
Right,
But
right,
we don't do that now. It's murder when we do it now.
right, right. And there still are those traditional practitioners of medicine that are
Oh
that are
yes, there
doing.
are. There are.
So
There are still.
what work is being done in the Marshall Islands to protect and maintain traditional Marshallese matrilineal land rights or
Mm.
Marshallese cultural history and language?
Well, we have our. If you read my CV, used to work at the. Well, I had the historic preservation office. So what we did, we've been doing all surveys and inventory, both archaeological and the ethnographic of our research and surveys, and they've been recorded. All the sites, the significant sites, both historic, prehistoric, or the cultural sites, the traditional. They've all been recorded. That's the job of for the historic preservation office. And then we have the Alele, where they have the museum, and they should be taking care of all the artifacts, the tangible side of culture, as well as our office. As you know, we're doing the codification of the whole book of ethics for the land. That'll be used in the courthouse. And it's been going on since two German before me. And hopefully we're trying to finish it before I retire from this office, because Alfred was before me. And it's really, I'm fortunate, but I have like some guys working with me that they're very knowledgeable. They can provide so much information on what was done then and what should be done. And sadly, I've been trying to work with the Council of Heroes, but I think there's not much knowledge of the old ways of preserving our culture.
Right.
So we kind of helping, but these are the three main cultural institutions that we have: the Alele, the Historic Preservation Office, and of course CLLC.
Right. And CLLC is doing a lot of work to maintain
Mm.
the language and maintain
Mm.
the way the language is, the written language is spelled.
Mm-hmm.
Could you speak a little to that?
What's that?
About how CLLC is working to try to maintain the language, especially with so many moving in diaspora and sort of losing that language.
Yes, it's kind of a challenge. Sometimes we think that, are we gonna really gonna keep our language? Because every week we do this radio program, huh?
Mm.
And because every now and then you hear, especially the younger generation, when they talk, it's like all new words they're using. So we're trying to correct them the right way to pronounce the Marshallese words. So, and then we put out like all five Marshallese words that are rarely used or they are archaic, and also the sayings, and trying to teach them the meaning of all the saying in the Marshallese language or what they take it. And it's very challenging. And of course, we already have the standardized spelling. We're going to stick to it. We made it standardized so they can be able to pronounce the word. Now we have our own grammar, and we're trying to enhance what we have on end from previous administration. But it's good that when President Hilda came aboard, she really pushed. She was really supportive. She's really supportive. She's the president again, and we've been going around installing our Marshallese app. Like we have the keyboard, the spell checkers. We developed teaching materials for the students and make sure that they know the Marshallese before they know the English. It's a big job, only few of us and a small budget, but we tried. And as you remember, we sent a group to Arkansas so they can start working with them because there's a lot to do over there.
There is. There's and
Like they create a new culture there.
right. And like
Mm,
you said you had one word for bird because there was only
yeah,
but you had
yeah.
30 or 40 words for coconut.
Of course we have, and
Right.
we have different stages that we even develop a poster that goes to the from the stages of the coconut as it grows.
Right.
But it's
Well,
what it's our tree of life.
right. Because it's so much
Uh,
comes from that. Right.
mhm.
Well, thank you.
Even the word boil.
Uh-huh.
Sorry, boil.
Oh,
So
yeah.
this is our. We don't have a word for boil because we never boil our food. We only put in the earth oven. So we have word for that.
Right. Right. Well, thank you, Chairperson Madison. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to showcase what we're doing. Not much, but hopefully we can be able to do more in the future as we're now doing the interpretation, trying to work on the test for that. We
Right.
started yesterday.
Great. Great. Well,
Mhm.
thank you. Go Mold.
Thank you, April, and it was good talking to you again.
You too.
Marshall Island, you are my homeland. We won't forget you and all the things that we've been through.